Hello everyone, I'm doing a quick video on set lines and high position attract lines. We're going to be out most of the day in position locations. So this is how we set up a new correlations to a Merkaba. The position attract lines into how calculations coming into set the correlation setting into high position of a test rec to its tetrahedron. Okay. So how this is set up is basically you start with the ground setting, high position attract lines into security measures. Open up position location attract interference. Recognize communication line settings into space atmosphere. Okay. So this is going to be the first teleportation unit that ever in positions flew in space. All right. So to set these things up is all understand how to correlate position locations into high settings to its track locations. All right, you got 3 pyramid set lines. Okay, so it gets in position location attraction into set locations. All right. Understanding everything that's going on at set location. Get you a better understanding. All right, so that's why I'm doing live on the phone, because it's going to be 20 minutes, probably 20 minutes, half an hour. But I just want you to get a basic understanding how this is going to be done. Okay, so setting position on track lines. Okay, so we're going to set up the observation deck. Set the communications and set lines high in advance. Okay, so to set these things up is really recognize the communications high setting. All right. Okay, so as we get in a formation location, we get into the grounds. Okay, so the operation system line conditions into this position. Okay, now the line setting line and interference, you got one position of circle, and 3 location settings. Okay, now what we're going to do is we're going to put that together locations into its set location. Center calculation is a center operation line setting. Okay, setting position locations comes into one set locations into a flux capacitor. Now in set locations, we're going to take the ground line setting, 0 gravity line position locations, 0 equals line conditions, high center locations, 1 bracket line interference, triangle line positions into box locations. All right. So this times 2 and set lines in high interference sets line position of 3, sets position location of 6, and position location of 7, and set locations of 8 set locations. All right. Now in that line communication setting is all I understand how to set up the high course. Now set up a circle line rotations into solar graph line position. Okay. In that line communication system, this is where you come into the Merkaba, okay, in set location. Now that set location comes into high setting. So you got 1 position location and 0 line rotation. Okay, triangle line equals box. Now, in that position locations, remember, we're coming into a new Merkaba. It set lines in a correlation system to track lines in high system locations into an observation lines to its hollow deck. The hollow deck sets the course line setting. So in direct locations, you come into this position locations, 3 set locations, all right? So this is how you set up a new position line track lines and 6 line connections. All right. So setting that line interference sets position locations to its tesseract. This is a diamond core shift line and high calculation streamline. Okay. Setting indirect line signal is all about understanding how to set up its position of its teleportation unit of its track location. Now, if you look really inside line conditions, you can actually see you in the center location, right? All right, so it's all about understanding how to put this all together, right? So it's a formula that basically sets line communications into the space line, okay, equal line condition high setting. Okay, so it comes into all calculations into 6 positions, into 5, in position of 4, into 3. 3 sets lines in position of 4 into 4 line setting, in position of 5, 5 equals location of 1, and 6 comes into 7 location setting in position of theta. Now, the recognition line calculation setting is setting up high position locations. You go into 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and you go into blast off line calculations. So you got the earth line rotation and position locations on a ground setting. Okay. Now, in the ground setting line and inference, you come into all calculation streams. The stream line in the set lines is coming into new antenna line position locations, right? Single line communication at the top locations, right? Setting direct line signals. So setting correlation interference is set position locations into triangle set lines, okay? So remember, creating line setting for the very first time position location is its Merkaba tetrahedron. The tetrahedron calculations to the tesseract location setting, okay? See the teleportation unit? All right, so this is how it's going to be set up. Coming in line in 51, 52, and 55, you put it all together, right? So you come in a north line, you come into the south line, east and west. Okay, so you got the west wing, and you got the east wing, and line connection high setting. Okay? Setting position of direct location is to understand how to set locations, 13-dimensional space, setting correlation line interference. So as we come in position location of track lines, each day you guys are going to go into, in the team line setting line interference, your phenomena is going to go higher in 1% line setting. Okay, in set locations. Yesterday communications, you were in 13. Today you're going to go in 14. You got to get connected to the ground lines in your solar plex locations. All right. So it's important you understand how to wave the set lines in high position locations into this position. All right. Okay. So center line communication is 0 line rotation in position. So this is where it comes into the first teleportation unit ever to fly in position of direction. Okay, there it is. Okay, so that's what we're setting up. Okay. Now getting the correlations of Chris is set location settings. So Chris, Val, Heather, us in the center. Okay. Team is going to be the outline setting rotation. So you're all going to be there set locations. So all levels of consciousness is going to set a line communication as string lines in position of track line. Okay, it's very powerful what we're coming into. All right, so setting line interference and highest set locations, triangle line center location is at 6. Now the 6 line rotation interference, 7 lines at 8 and 9 is center line communication. So that's 7 cross its stream, okay, in position locations. So it takes the 8 line in rotation to its position of track lines into over in line conditions into sector calculations, which comes into interface line, okay? Interface line, its position of track lines in set location setting, okay? All right, but that's how it's going to be set up, okay? It's a very, very powerful device unit setting. So as it goes in position, it blasts off and it sets lines in communication as space, because it's never been in space. It's never been created until set locations. This changes everything in direct line setting. I'll show you exactly what it's going to do when it travels in space location. Okay? So it's important you understand how to set location of its formula. All right? Okay, so as you're setting that correlation set line, you have to really recognize more levels of your set locations. All right, so you have the 0 line rotation. Now, line communications comes into 3 set line conditions into 3 triangle set locations. All right, that's how it's going to set up. So in position locations, you come into this line calculation, right? And then you come into this line, and then you come into this line location, right? So what you're doing is you're bringing the 3 into 1, right? So this comes into the center. This comes in here, this comes in here. So it comes in position locations into 1 triangle set line in set locations. We split it in position locations into 1, 2, 3 set location. Setting position of track lines comes into this line conditions in its direction. See the intelligence? All right, so coming in that line interference, we set east wing and we see west wing in correlation line setting. Setting position locations into north line communication and position location as south line calculation setting. There's the Merkaba, there's the tesseract, and there's the tetrahedron. Okay? So as it comes together, it starts to understand what it's doing. So when it's in its ampersand line setting, setting direct locations to a system. All right, so the track lines and the earth lines. So this is the earth. So the Merkaba is set location to space and communication setting, high position of track lines and set location high setting, line communication position, right? So it's going to be the atmosphere for the very first time. So what's going to happen? It's going to put lines of rainbow showers and line connections to the Earth position, location, of track lines, all set location. Okay, that's what it's going to do. So in that position line connections, the connections line center line and position of two track lines in line position locations into this line communications. So it's all set up location. Fibonacci swirl and 3-set line and another Fibonacci swirl and the set locations into high center, another 3-line setting. The center correlation system is its flux capacitor. 2 antennas in line communication setting in position of track lines. Open all position locations into high setting in its direct location. Okay, so that's what's going to happen with the connections to the Merkaba, the tesseract, and the tetraregion. Okay, first device ever to be built in space atmosphere. Okay, so you got Earth lines in set line communication setting in set location. All right, this is the Earth. Okay, Earth line rotation center. Your Earth perceptions are going to change line settings of screens. Now, screens are going to open up all position location of track lines in set location. Okay, so hitting spot channels. Line communicates window graph line screens, setting direct locations and laser in direct location system in direct line setting. Okay, so setting that direct locations comes into all set locations. So you got a 2 out line rotation and interference, setting direct location settings. So in set position locations, the actual Merkaba, the tesseract tetraregion, the actual teleportation unit is going to go into its atmosphere line and get used to what's going on with its own space of time. So the track lines, the position locations of 51, 52, and 55 in set locations. So in set line communication system, 51 is going to be in the front line setting. We're going to put it into the back line rotation, which is the front line setting, and position of 52, which is going to be in the set locations into the center calculations, and 55 is going to be in last calculation streamline. So that's where you take 51, 52, and 55 in position location of track lines, because right now the position locations in set lines at 3 pyramid set line position location and calculation is in a paradigm shift. Changing the paradox correlation stream puts everything in position locations. So instead of living time but space, it's going to be in space and time for the very first location. Okay, so that's what's going to happen in direct line signals. Okay, so it's really interesting how to set up the formula position location of track lines. It's really interesting too, because the thing is, once it's set up in a direct line signal, it sets position locations when you come into alpha set locations. All right, so you got alpha line setting, setting position of 5 and position of 0, 0, 0, 0 set locations. So you come into the alpha line setting and rotation surface, setting position locations, energy lights, setting line interference and position location of mass to correlation system communications to square location setting. All right, so you take the E equals MC square. So the square line sets a 2-unit line interference, changes line center of 0, 0, 0, box location, set lines and high setting. You split it in set location to 3 set locations, 3 settings in set locations. Now, center correlation system, the alpha line center sets position location of delta. Delta line communicates its high system. All right. So high system line interference comes into all calculation system into 6 waving cycles: 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1, 2, 3 graph location hologram stream. Setting direction high setting. So this is delta. Center correlation system is operation to omega in a dimensional line that locks its system to its location system. Tracking line communication system comes into a box force line stream in set location of 12 line setting and 3 set location of laser direct location. Okay, setting communication line settings is all levels. Now the travel recognition line interference sets all position location attractions. So setting up sky grids and sign lines and high lines and psychops and high position line settings into a data stream in position attraction. Setting line communications into 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 in set location. All right, done by equation. All right, so that is set up position of traction. The recognition of the solar line graph is set position. So you got 13 set lines and high setting locations into 14. That's percent location into 0, 1 traction. Okay. Now 14 sets line setting into the center locations. That's 14% in equal location of perception in phenomenal line setting. Congratulations. All right. So we track the line communication setting in position of track locations. All right. This pulsar is its line setting. Okay. So the perception line conditions, pulsar, equal locations of volume, velocity, and position of VAS. Correlate line interference, bracket line communication system, track line settings. You got a track line and set line communications into 1, 1, 1. Bracket location of 3, 1 settings. That's 3, 3, 3. Setting position of track lines and communication. Okay. Setting direct line setting is really understanding how to set up the swivel in a position location of track line. You come in a 0 line rotation in a spin line cycle. You change the 3 lines into 14% line position locations. You come into another correlation line connections into a diamond shift line in position of traction. Now that set line's high position locations change the position location as high setting. Now, recognition communication comes into 1 lines of box locations in the top line setting. See the box? All right, so the box comes into a line communications to a half pipe, which is 6 line. The center correlations of the moon and the set position location of the sun is a projection locations into 3 waving cycles into box location. Okay, done by equation. All right, so that set up position locations. The operation system and the line connecting is all levels of formation line setting. Now, in that position locations, this is where you come into the 14 setting. 14% is set location set. Equal location of 0, 0, 0, 1 line setting. That's 72 line tracks in line conditions waiting on signal to 144. Equal line connections, high set line position of high position locations into its crystal grid in set location high setting. Setting direct line settings come to all calculation system into CGI, guys. CGI. This comes in all calculation hologram line setting, solar graph line settings, 1 ground line setting, rotation in direct location of 4 signals in high silent positions to its track location into its crop circle, setting correlation line position locations in position line directions, in line communication of its orb line rotation setting. Okay, done by equation. All right, so now we're in CGI. Okay, coming into that position location is the computer operation ground level. Okay, that's what CGI stands for. All right, so you got the CGI set lines. Okay, so you got communication line settings, equation of computer line and position location is CPU line setting. You got the ground line level into intelligent formation locations into 3, 4, 5, 6. 6 lines of communication lines of energetic wave patterns into all levels of an echo line chamber, setting direct locations into Jupiter line rosing, line position locations into track location settings, into Pluto in line rotation in set location setting, in line connections into Mercury in a 3 line position location track line, in position location to the sun line, in position locations into moon line rotation setting. Perception line connection sets line position of triangulations in direct location to a new Merkaba, to a tetrahedron, to a tesseract locations of CGI of computer operation through your CPU unit. Done by equation. Okay, so as we go into the CPU unit line setting, this streams its position location on line setting. Recognition line calculation system is its hollow deck. Now that's a 3 waving set location. Okay, setting direct line connections this way, and this line connections high setting. Okay, so we come into this position location of track line and set locations into 6, line 7, and position 8, 1 tether and correlation system. Now the 1 line setting aligns position location to its triangulations to its new energy light and rotation setting. High position of track lines comes into a new ground setting rotation, setting direct line setting line interference into the sun in position of the moon. So the sun comes straight down into the moon set locations into 3 waving cyclone settings in set locations, done by equation. All right, so setting that up through high set locations is really understand how to set up The solar graph line setting. So you got 14 equal locations into 14 line position locations into 14 set line communications into waving cycles and set lines high position of telewaving, telecommunicating, telegraphing, and teleportation unit and line rotation interference. Setting direction. Direction in all position of track lines and acceleration line setting. So it's a 14 line setting in percentage locations in line conditions 0, 0, 0, 1. Remember, it's a 72 line track in position of waiting signal to 144 in set location line condition system, putting you guys in track lines as of tomorrow line signals in set locations into 15% in set line settings, line connections to perception, equal line connections over pi, in line connections into its future adaptation line setting, line connections to its avatar stream location setting. Done by equation. All right, so you're all set up in your 14 line setting. You really have to get your grounds now. Okay, so this is your set location setting. Okay, so it look like location. That's you, right? Now, you're in the center position locations. You have to get grounds with this. You got to get grounds with that because this offlines your grounds. Okay, you got to get grounds. Okay, you need grounds now. So center correlation system, get in position location and attraction. All right, because the line connection is the pyramid set. Okay, in set locations. The downshift line setting is the downshift line cross locations. In positions to the upline setting, in direct locations to its track line connections to its Merkaba, to its tesseract, to its tetrahedron location setting. Okay? You need to get grounds. Okay? It's very important to understand that because you got a new solar line setting and it's got disks in center locations. Okay? So you have to really understand how this works for you in position of direction. Okay? So understanding the grounds, center correlations to your flux capacitor. Okay? How it's set up location to your diamond. How it's set up locations to all system location to your orb in position location of high setting. Putting position locations in another solar graph and another solar graph and another solar graph in set location settings. Coming in communication system, indirect line setting, and rotation system locations. Recognizing communication line setting into a star line stream. This is where you come into 1, 2, 3, 4 pillars of light. 4 track line settings into 2 box locations. All right, 2 box location settings. Okay, holographic signal line communications. All right, 2 box position locations, lines of center line and rotations of pi. High center correlation system puts everybody in direct line setting. This opens all calculation system in its direct location to its position of time sector. Okay, so it's knowing how to set things up in skylines, sky grids, Skynet high setting. Okay, you need to get your grounds because you're at 14% of phenomenal location. All right, so that's all set up. Okay, now the position of formula has line centered of 0, 0, 0 track locations into 1. Okay, now that 3 line centering line interference in high center location is 72 positions, equal line conditions into solar line conditions of graph location. Okay, setting direct line signals in high sampling position, see the intelligence, comes into a new 0 rotation surface in set location. Okay, now as it comes into a swivel, it looks like this location. Setting position location line connection is a triangle set that sets its lines in the apsier line connection. So you got 13 set lines in high setting and triangulation high setting. Okay, so that's 13,000 line setting in set locations, and you got 24,000 line settings in set locations. All right, so that track line connections is 3 into 4 lines into 2. So you come into 2 line settings into 4 line graphs into 3 set locations, puts everything in a higher line of rotation surface in a higher calculations to its pyramid set location. Okay. So it's all about understanding that your positions of all set locations is the 3 set line settings into its pyramid. All right. So you take this and this, okay, you put this and this, this and this, this and this, this and this. You have your position locations of your Merkaba of a new tesseract of a new tetrahedron location. A travel recognition. Okay? That's how it's going to be set up. Okay? Done by equation. Okay? So it's kind of like you understand yourself through a swivel. The recognition timelines is set location high setting. Because the clock and line set line interference is 9 over line position of 16 in set locations. So that's 9 energy wash line centers and line position of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 6 lines of half pipe correlation line setting in high position. Now the 1 line setting is a new ground line rotation. Nothing's coincidence. So that's 1 line, equines of pi in position locations over track. That track line sets line communication system into 6 lines into a new moon setting, operation signal. Okay? So, how's everybody doing so far? You have to really get your theta set lines in communication setting and rotation. So getting in that track lines, we got a forming line setting, a ground line. So forming line center is a power line. A forming line center is in 3 atmosphere location settings. So in recognition line interference, that's 3 Merkabas the ground setting, 6 Merkabas in power setting, and 9 equals lines of Merkabas in the atmosphere set location. Okay, 3, 6, and 9. All right, recognition line centers at 3%. 3% line position of 0, 1. 0, 1 bracket line connections into 1 setting in high set rotation. Okay. Setting position locations comes into 6. Now the 6 line sets a line communication into the moon, which opens its operation to higher position location, high set and rotation. Setting a new Wi-Fi and a new modem set to line connections. Now 9 comes into line positions to an energy wash line into its Merkaba of set location setting in high position location and track location. Okay, so understanding the calculations of percentage over pi in phenomenal line setting in position locations of 3, 6, and 9 puts everybody in set location of space and line in a correlation system to higher levels of travels into their higher self position of direct locations. Now the center calculation line setting in direct location is position of 24,000 line setting. Okay, equal lines as 3, 0 line rotation interference, line position location line conditions into a box position location of 2, 2 equal line conditions, high center location intelligence, high position locations in CPU line rotations, and calculations to X line setting into T line rotation of 0, 0, 0, 0, track line conditions of 4, equal line conditions and docile line in position of 1, 1 line setting line interference, high position locations crosses over into pi correlation system, 3 sets line conditions into 6, into 7, into 8, and position of 9 in set location. Okay? Recognizing communications of pi is to understand how this gets in position location of track lines. So in that line interference in high set locations, this puts all levels of the CPU unit line rotation into a new orb channel and operation signal in 12 line signal locations of travel. Setting position line conditions comes into a compute system to its perception, to its unification line setting into a solar graph of a new sun rotation set location to a new moon and operation of perception location on lines of a kaleidoscope location. Done by equation. All right. So congrats. You guys are now at position location of track lines into 14 percentage locations of pi through phenomenal line setting in position location attraction, guys. So it's a powerful step when you come into the higher calculations of formulas in set locations. All right. So that's what it is. It's a percentage of 1%. And that 1% puts you at higher levels of consciousness. The adaptation of the mind has no longer the unconscious. You're out of the consciousness, you're out of the super of its consciousness, your higher levels is phenomenal line interference. So that 1% changes its position locations in set lines. You have 24,000 stream lines in seconds per channel of 60 seconds into one center in one position locations into 1 minute of one factor, 1 pi, correlation line setting, space rotation system location, allocate position of time center in its direct system. Position, location, and directions. Okay? Done by equation. All right? So congrats. 14 percentage locations. Right? Setting correlating line interference location spacing line is line communication of 4%. Okay? But they're on a waiting signal. All right? They're in phenomenal line rotations, but they're on a waiting signal until they get activated line stream into Y lines factor in position locations into a position of barometer to a thermometer to line communications to a set line, a heat signature pattern correlation system, putting in them into higher levels of travel in position of directions into the higher self, into the avatar line position. But the team is now integrated to its higher self, to its position locations, to its avatar setting. The recognition timeline is putting you percentage over pi correlation system. 0 to 100 is the correlation system of what you have to reach in its platitude locations. Okay? So there you go. All right. All right, so guys, I'll keep you guys updated of what's going on. It won't be in Q&A because I'll be going out, but I will keep you in track lines. I will be doing YouTube videos outside to get you guys informations of what's going to happen next in direct location settings, okay? So other than that, you guys have a wonderful day. Adios. Well done.